Welcome to today's session, which is gamification, and today's topic is going to be escape rooms. So this is a new series this year where we're focusing on things to make your classroom more engaging for your learners. And escape rooms are one of my favorite things to do with students, so I'm really excited to share this one with you today. Before we get into that, I just wanted to show you where you can find all of our sessions for the year for our virtual professional developments. You can click on the link, calendar of events, and that will take you to all of our professional developments. We have here virtual ones for the most part, but we also have a couple of other experiences, one of which is our Experience, Create, Facilitate. It's a 2-day professional development, and if you're really interested in learning how to create an escape room for your own classroom, I highly recommend you sign up for this one right here in December. It's a 2-day where you'll get to see an escape room that we've created in action, and then you will get to have a full day of professional development where we help you create your own to bring back to your school, along with opportunities to have me come in and help you co-teach your new escape room. So it's a really great new thing that we're offering, and hopefully you're interested and sign up. And I am Carrie Lane. I'm here today with two of my colleagues, the Director of Educational Technology, Alicia Gaicos Butters, and my colleague Jessica, who is going to share a little example of an escape room with you today. All right, Jessica shared in the chat some of the links for today's session. And there's one more link that I do want to share because this year we're also offering graduate level extension credits through USD. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up to get professional learning credits, and I'll put the link to that in the chat as well. All right. So today, what we're going to do is we are going to demystify escape rooms. We're going to talk about analog escape rooms, so ones that you create without digital tools, and then virtual escape rooms. So a mix of both things, because I know that there are educators who want to have a classroom that is really focused on the doing and the action that's in person and analog. And then we have some people who are interested in creating virtual locks and things like that, as well as some who want to mix the two. You'll learn the steps to create an escape room, and then I'll share with you free pre-made escape rooms as well. And if you join us for our Experience, Create, Facilitate on December 4th, we also have resources for the 3 different escape rooms that we've created that are pretty robust as well. So let me know if you're interested in that. Oops. So before we really jump into the content, what is your level of escape room experience? So have you done escape room with your friends? Have you created escape rooms already for your students? Sometimes we have a couple of people that we work with who are real escape room enthusiasts. One I know travels to other countries and goes to escape rooms there. So where do you fall in the scale? New to you? Have you been to some? No experience, and that's okay. We're really starting from scratch today. And as I mentioned, if you're really interested after this, we have a great opportunity to really dive into them. Went once, never created one. Okay, so this will be awesome because we can really start from scratch. Okay, digital escape room purchase from TPT. So yeah, there are quite a few escape room purchases that you can do, and I'll show you some links to things that are free and to purchase at the end as well. Thank you for sharing. So what are escape rooms? For anyone who hasn't done an escape room, in general, they are a game-based activity where you're solving puzzles that all lead you to unlock a specific story or a specific scenario. And those can be different. Most escape rooms that you go to as an adult or just for fun will have fun themes like mad science or Batman or haunted graveyard, something that's really interesting and unique. But what's great for us as educators is that we can use escape rooms to enhance learning. And so those puzzles that we create and those riddles that we do, we can tie them to our standards and back to our subject matter. And the scenarios that we can create can all really tie back into that as well. And so in education, there are lots of ways you can use escape room. You can use it as something where you have it multiple days in a row as checks for understanding. So you can teach content and then have one clue over time to check for understanding. You can use it as a formative or a summative assessment to collect data. You can use it as a way that you give your students feedback. Thank you. You can use it to preview content. So this one's actually really fun because if you're trying to get students to anticipate their learning or get really excited about a unit, you can have them do an escape room and dive into it first. And you can use it as a fun way to review concepts or vocabulary. And no matter how you use it, students are going to gain really important critical thinking skills, time management skills, because most escape rooms are timed, and opportunities to reflect on what they learned. And I put in here one example of a text-based escape puzzle where you have bolded words. And so whether you're teaching English language arts and you want students to analyze text and you want to put in there some vocabulary words that they have to decode or put together into a sentence, or you're teaching math and you want them to go through a maze where they solve math equations to find their way through. You could even have things like maps in history or social studies. What conquest did Alexander the Great make, and solve that map to find the next clue. You can use technology. It's great for science. We've done a Cabbage Lab science experiment clue where at the bottom of each of the cups for the pH scale, you have different codes and words. So lots of things. The opportunities for escape rooms in education are really robust. And as your students are doing this, they're engaging in productive struggle. When they complete it, they feel accomplishment. It's a great opportunity to show them a growth mindset because it's not easy. It gets really, really difficult sometimes to continue to try to solve these puzzles and feel like you haven't quite gotten it yet. But it really builds those problem-solving skills, communication skills, and team skills. And it also builds students' autonomy to try to solve things on their own while working in groups. So I'm going to turn it over for a second to my colleague Jessica because she does an amazing experience with littles. So TK and kindergarten, I believe, and she's going to talk a little bit about that.
Cool. And you can just keep showing the slides. All right. Hi, everybody. So I took a cue from Carrie's work doing escape rooms with middle school and high school and tried out a lesson with, this was actually a first grade class, but it could definitely be done in kinder, TK. And what was really interesting about it is because for the most part, those ages are kind of pre-literate. It also lended itself really well to like any kind of upper grades that may have accessibility needs or have lower reading levels, because there's a lot that can be done without really complex like reading or math ability or things like that. So what we did was we called it a treasure hunt. We switched the name a little bit because escape room sounds a little bit scary to like a 5-year-old. So we called it a treasure hunt. Same idea. They had a bunch of different clues to solve. And eventually it would lead them to the ending where they would get some kind of reward or find some kind of treasure or piece something together. This was really just an experiment to see how it would work and what clues worked well. So we didn't have a super academic theme, but we did take some elements of like things they had been working on in class and incorporated them into the clues. What I loved about doing this with littles is that it was a great opportunity for like movement and play and also reinforcing those academic skills. It really got them thinking about spatial awareness. So like what is in their area that could be used as a clue. We did it outside on the playground, so there was a lot of nature around, things they had to identify and like seek out. motor skills, fine motor skills, gross motor skills, because they're running around the playground. And then they're also Sorry about that. I have my own little barging in. Group collaboration, because there were 5 students that had to work together in each group. And it reinforced academics like matching letters, identifying sentences, spelling, sight words, and different math problems. And then the strategies we use, this is a couple examples of the clues. So we had turtles that they had to look under where we had clues taped underneath. We had Lego blocks, we had trees, elements of the playground where they had to find clues. You can see this little math problem. They were working on 5 and 10 equations, so we had some picture math, and then fill in the blanks for their words. Um, yeah, like I said, we were using the playground, nature, picture puzzles, matching pairs. We threw in a pop a balloon clue, which Carrie's used before, so I stole that from her, where the clue was hidden inside a balloon. So they really loved that, like just hearing a balloon pop and trying to figure out how to pop it on a playground. And then things like unwrapping packages or ribbons. We didn't do complex locks, like I know Carrie will probably speak to some different locking mechanisms you can use with middle and high school. But we did use like a key, a lock and key, and then something that they could just unwrap that was kind of complex. So in case any of you guys are younger grades, there's a sample of the lesson plan and my Canva file link that had all these different clues.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Jessica. Does anyone have any questions for Jessica about her little escape room? We'll just give it a moment before we dive into the next topic. Okay. Well, feel free to put any of those in the chat. I know Jessica will be on for a few more moments. And let's dive into the difference between physical and digital escape rooms. And so a physical escape room is really great because, as Jessica mentioned with hers, it involves physical movements. You get to be hands-on with the materials. You're searching rooms for clues, which can be really fun. And in a lot of the ones that we've done, we try to do a little blend of both so that they get to do hands-on things, but they also have the benefit of doing some of the digital locks as well. And it's a really good way to promote teamwork. And it teaches you and your students to work within a time limit. So that's the great things about physical. Some of the things that are a little bit different about digital, um, it's going to be free most of the time, unless you're using a paid escape room that you haven't developed, because you don't have to buy any locks, you don't have to buy the materials. So you can do it on Google Forms, you can do it within Canvas if you have Canvas. You can do it in lots of different ways, even Google Sheets. And once you've done it, it's just free. You share it with your students. Students can access it anywhere. They can even complete it on their own. So sometimes if you want to build student autonomy, they can do things by themselves. You don't have to have a time limit. And there's nothing that breaks. So one thing I will say, we do a lot of escape rooms in our building. And one thing about the physical escape rooms is the locks do break. And once the locks break, it's really hard to, it's either expensive to replace them or it's hard to figure out how to fix them. So those are some of the things about digital to think about. And then no matter which one you're using, you're going to get students communicating, collaborating, thinking critically, and being creative on how they solve the puzzles. So before we dive into anything else, what I'd like to do is I would like to give you an opportunity to experience a digital escape room. So just a thumbs up or a yes in the chat. How many of you have seen a digital escape room example? Okay, I see one. Couple. Okay, perfect. So let me just for a real quick second jump out of this so I can get you all the link. And then I'm going to have you take this really, really short virtual escape room example so that you can all just see what it's like for anyone who hasn't experienced it. So that link will take you to an escape room. It's a short one that's based only really on the picture that you see and the text at the top. So you'll notice when you click into the form, there's a little description. In the description, there's some information that will help you solve one of the clues, and then all the rest of your answers are going to be from this picture. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, not too much time at all, to try to solve it, and then we'll come back. Set a 5-minute timer for you all. Just want to make sure, let me know in the chat if anyone's having any difficulty with accessing the form or figuring out what to do. I'm happy to help. If not, I'll assume everyone's doing well. Excellent. We have our first escapee. Great job. Yes, if you are driving, it probably isn't the time to try this, but no worries. Even if you don't escape this one or you don't try it out today, you can always look back at it, and I will really give you an overview and a resource you can use to create something very similar. The good thing to know is that this is really easy to create. And so it's something that's fun, it's easy, it's interesting. We have 31 more seconds left. All right. So I just want to look in the chat. I love the idea of this for an exit ticket or a bell ringer. Exactly. So they don't have to be gigantic escape rooms. And honestly, if you're just starting out, it might be the best way to go that you just do little things like this. And so, yeah, I see the color lock got us. So in the description, one way that you can put a clue for your escape room if you're doing something virtual is to use forms and just write out certain letters in bold or have some kind of puzzle link within that top description. You'll notice the number lock, and that's just one of the examples. So some of the easy locks are word locks. Number locks was just adding up the number. We had the directions. So anytime you have arrows, you can do directions. And then we had color. And yes, the color was difficult because I didn't really give you much instruction for it. So it could have been big to small with the colors. There are so many different colors that it could have taken a while. And that's something when you're designing for your students, you may want to give them more clues than what I gave you. But as a sample, it's always nice to have just something for you all to see what it looks like to have a virtual room. So, whether you are creating the escape room to be digital or analog, the first thing you're going to want to do is define your goals and resources. And we'll talk about each of these one by one. Then you're going to choose a theme and backstory. You're going to plan your puzzle flow and your locks. Then you're going to build them out. And so you'll notice 3 is planning your puzzle flow and locks. And I highly recommend doing this before you start to build puzzles and locks by themselves because it will help you to make sure that things make sense. And I will tell you from personal experience that the first time you set up an escape room, something will probably go wrong because we don't think of everything immediately as you're planning that puzzle flow. But at least if you map it out ahead of time, you're going to have a much better chance of having it kind of be streamlined and make more sense. And then step 5 is really important because when you do an escape room, you want to have somebody test it who is not you to make sure that it's working, to find any kind of glitches. You also want to make sure that you've shared all your resources that are digital correctly, and then you want to facilitate it with your students. And I put in here because we are all always talking about AI. AI can make escape room creation a lot easier than it used to be. And so AI can help you with coming up with a theme or a backstory and matching themes to subject clue ideas, as well as developing clue content. And so I'm just going to jump into one AI tool that I like to use. I like to use it because it gives you its sources. And so even though I use the free version, so you don't have that many opportunities to interact with it, I love the sources that it gives me because then I can go down an escape room rabbit hole and find all sorts of fun puzzles and resources that have already been created about a topic. And so, for example, actually, would anybody like to either unmute or in the chat tell me a subject that they're teaching? And maybe if you have an idea of something you might want an escape room about, but if not, just tell me what subject you're teaching. Okay, I like this one. So we'll do the Egyptian mummification process. So type into here, we might put in create a backstory for an escape room for, would you mind sharing what grade your Egyptian mummification process is? sixth grade students about the Egyptian mummification process. Please provide, we'll say for now, 5 sample clue ideas about this backstory. So already just kind of getting us started, and it will come up with a backstory. I usually will prompt it to tell me like 5 ideas for a backstory, and I'll pick my favorite one. And then it will start to tell you clue ideas. And once you start to see clue ideas, say that you like something, then in here, you can even put in something like, please provide free resource links and step-by-step instructions on how I would make this clue for my students. And it will start to do things for you. And what's great about this program, Perplexity, and a lot of them do this, but more of them do this with the paid version, is you'll start to find all sorts of resources once it's done where you can actually go in and deep dive, make sure the information's accurate, find more examples, things like that. And so now once you read through all of this, which I won't do here, you'll see that there are lots of different steps and you can have it break down the steps more and more. But this is just kind of to get you thinking about how to use AI. And then if you click on this 20 sources, you can start to click into any of these sources and see more about previous escape room puzzles about this, escape room articles, things about hieroglyphs. All right. So that's one way to use, or that's 3 ways to use AI. But also, we use AI a lot for creating the graphics and the videos for escape rooms. And so one that I wanted to show you, it's really quick, is a program called InVideo. And so this is an example. I'll just play a couple of minutes of it, not even a couple of minutes, of one that it created just using a backstory that I had. So I copied in the backstory to this InVideo program and I pasted it in, and it was about, I think my backstory was something about create a backstory about Oakwood Middle School and it's haunted and things like that. And I had just that kind of paragraph that I got from Perplexity, and it created this for me.
Oakwood Middle School stood on a hill. Weeds grew around it. The windows were boarded up. No one went near the place. 8 students and their teacher, Miss Blackwood, disappeared there years ago. Vanished. No one knew what happened to them. Some kids said the school was cursed. They said the missing people were trapped inside. Forever. I didn't believe it. Not really. But Oakwood Middle School still gave me the creeps.
The air inside was cold and damp. Dust covered everything. We walked through the deserted hallways. Everything was so dark and scary. Ghostly banging rattled the windows. We found Miss Blackwood's classroom. There was a message scrawled on the chalkboard. "Help us," it said. Suddenly the door slammed shut. We were locked in. We rattled the doorknob. It wouldn't budge. We were trapped. Panic welled up inside us. We couldn't spend the whole night in here. Time was running out. There had to be a way out. The legend said the missing people left puzzles behind. We had to solve them before dawn, or we'd be trapped forever, just like them.
So that's an example of just what it created. And so once you've typed in your prompt and you hit generate my video, it does take a while. So I kind of did that before this training, but you have the option to then go in and edit. And so you can edit the media and upload your own media. You can adjust the music that's playing. You can adjust the script, the voices. And so if you want to make it more kid-friendly, you can do that. If you see a picture you don't like, as long as you're using their stock or things that you upload, it's free to use, and you get 10 minutes of video per week. So, or sorry, I think it's per month. So you can really make these intro videos pretty quickly. Any questions about using AI to help you with your escape rooms? So back to that graphic of what the steps are. Whether you're doing analog or digital escape rooms, the first thing is thinking about your learning goals. So thinking about your standards, what you want students to be able to accomplish, and the subject matter that you're teaching. And then looking through what materials do you have versus what you'll need to create. And the reason I like to talk about this one is because when we've done escape room trainings with teachers in the past, some of them have a textbook that has a specific kind of puzzle or a specific kind of activity where they're matching pictures to different artifacts or things like that, where you already have the puzzle made for you. You just put it into this escape room that you're now developing, and you don't actually have to create every puzzle from scratch. You can take the content or the curriculum you already have and just kind of add it to that gamified escape room. And then I highly recommend making a folder where you're going to keep all your resources. Escape rooms, because they have so many elements to them, can get disorganized really quickly. So having that folder is very helpful. And then before you get started, you want to think about the time limit. So if you only want it to be a bell ringer or an exit slip, you probably just want it to be a quick 4 or 5 minute activity, and you can have multiple of those that culminate into unlocking a bigger escape. If you know that you have an hour that you want to spend, think about what you can get done in an hour. Usually our escape rooms are between 60 and 90 minutes. So depending on the grade level and which one we're doing. What's your group size? You know your class size. At our building where I teach, we have different class sizes all the time, and we have different grade levels all the time. And so that's the nice thing about having your own classroom where you're always with your students. You know more about your students and what they're learning and what level they'll be at. And then think about the space of your class and the technology available. And then thinking about a theme and a backstory. And so based on your subject and your standards, you'll want to think about a topic, and then you'll want to create that setting. And the setting is important, especially I used to be a middle school English teacher. When you're thinking about building that buy-in for students, having that clear descriptive setting of where they are and also that reason for doing what they're doing. And then you want to have that mission or problem. And the mission or problem is going to be that thing that connects all of those puzzles that you create together. And then step 3, this is where it gets really fun and creative. You start to think about your puzzle flow and locks. And so you start to think about, how do I want my escape room to look? In our building, most of the time we do rotations for escape rooms. And so because unlike in an escape room that you go to where you just join a group of 6 people and you all work together to complete one room, a classroom has at least 5 groups of 6 people, right? And so unless you want to make 6 different versions of the clues and find the space to house it so that all of them can do the same thing at the same time, it's really difficult to do an escape room in education without having some form of rotation. And so we have 6 rotations that we do, and students do the same activities, but they do them at different times and they rotate. And so that's one thing that I'd recommend. And as you plan for that, that will help you to create the puzzles and the order that things need to go. Or maybe your stars don't have an order until the very end. You also can do a linear progression where one thing leads to another. It's just a little more difficult in the classroom. And you can do things that are hybrid. And so sometimes when we have ours, we do stations for the physical ones, and then we do hybrid where all 6 groups can be on the digital ones at the same time. And then we always tie back our puzzles to the learning objectives. So if you start having too much fun with the escape room, you might lose sight of the thing you're actually supposed to be teaching. So that's just one thing we always try to check back on, whether the clues and the puzzles are meeting the learning objective. So I showed you a little bit about using AI to get clues, but I also want to show you this, and I shared the link already, but I'll share it one more time in the chat. This is a resource we put together for you for this training. And what it is it teaches you how to step by step plan out your escape room. And so we already went through some of the resources. So the planning stages, we have templates for you. We have things about how to manage in Google Drive your resources, AI for the backstory, puzzle flow with different types of lock types. But what I want to focus on here is the puzzle section. And so here you'll find links to all different types of ways to create your puzzles. So if you want to create videos that have timestamps, and the timestamps then will be the answer or the word that needs to unlock the word clue, you can use some of these. Sometimes you want to muddle up an audio clip and it's got a hidden message or a hidden set of words. You can do that using Vocaroo. And then all of these are really cool. You have different cryptogram creators, anagrams, secret notes, emoji messages, riddles, Morse code, lots of things that you just click into it and it will allow you to create a puzzle or a picture or something like that. You can create maps for your escape room. These ones are to modify text, so you can flip them upside down and adjust fonts. And then these ones are for mock media and documentation. So I find these ones are really helpful, especially for things like history classes, where you can create these fake newspaper clippings. You can create ID cards. I've used this one before for multiple escape rooms. There are ones where you can make fake checks. So very fun to create little opportunities for mock media. And then I put in here some different subject specific puzzles you can use, as well as some resources like timers. So when you're doing an escape room, one of the crucial things is having that countdown. And so you might want to have a stopwatch timer or something like that, spy music. Any questions about that? And I think we have enough time if we'll take, I think, 3 minutes if you want to just click into those links and peruse, see if there's anything you like, and then share back in the chat what you clicked into and what you liked about it. So I'll just type that in the chat and we'll be back at 41. Okay. Anyone want to share any of the programs they tried out? You can feel free to unmute or type into the chat if you'd like. And then while we wait for anybody who wants to share, if you wouldn't mind putting a yes in the chat or your thumb up, how many of you are interested in creating a virtual escape room or a clue, at least, that's virtual? Okay, I see one. Awesome. Glad you liked it, Steve. Thank you, Julie. All right, so we're just going to go really quickly into this. As I mentioned, if this is something you want to know more about, we're always happy to help. And we do have a really detailed opportunity on the 5th where we will go over doing this. But these links will give you information on how to create your locks with a Google form. And so I'm just going to click for now on this sample Google form. Because, and I didn't create this, this was something that I found, but it's a really great way to kind of use this template to create your first virtual escape room. And so once you hit use template, you can update the name. And then you'll notice, and Teresa, this might help you here, in that description area, this is where I hid some capital letters for my first problem. So I have, in this one, this isn't mine, but I had a capital E, a capital U, a capital L, a capital C, and a capital S. And so I'm not sure what theirs was because right now my brain isn't working that well, even though I'm training you all. I think it's clues, but that's the word. And so then on their word number lock, you'll see that the template has this blank word number lock. So I look at this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to change this to 5 word number lock so that when my students see it, they're going to see how many, and it's 5 letter lock, sorry. And so we have a 5-letter lock. There are no spaces or commas. And so I'm going to give an example of a 5-letter word that has no spaces or commas. And then what you're going to do is it needs to be required, and it uses something called data validation. And again, I'm going to go over this super quickly because it is something that takes a little bit of time, but we can talk more about it if you have any questions in the future. So here, when you look at this 3 dots icon, you need to make sure that response validation is checked. That's how you're going to create the thing that I created where you basically unlock something. And so I also made sure to have a description. That's where I put the no spaces or commas and my example. And so it's a short answer text. It has that data validation. And then in my case, I'm going to do text. And the text contains, and we said the text contained clues. And then if you get it wrong, it's going to say, please try again. And so when I preview this, I have my 5-letter lock. If I type in ruler, oops, let me accept responses, sorry. Publish settings, publish, and we'll just do for now anyone with the link. Okay, so now when I do this, and I come into here and I type ruler and I hit OK, it should tell me that something is wrong. Sometimes when I'm doing this really quickly, it doesn't work for me. But when I hit the other short answer text, if I put clues, it would tell me that it was right. And so just because we're limited on time, I'm going to move on. And then if I have time at the end, I'll show you, or I'll figure out why this isn't working for me. But basically, as you set it up, you'll just want to go in, you'll change how many letters or numbers, you'll give instructions by adding that description, and then you'll change this to be text or number or whatever you want it to do, and then the specific word. I know that was very quick. Does anyone have any questions? And like I said, I'll try to come back to it once I get through a few more things just to make sure that you can all see it in action. And then if you are creating a virtual one, you're going to probably want to have that visual. And so the visual is going to go here. So once you create a visual, you can create a visual in Google Drawings or in Google Slides and then take a screenshot. You put that here and then you just add it as an image. So in here, when you add a question, you have the opportunity to add an image, and you add an image from your computer. So what I did before was I went in and I found a picture. This one is not going to be it because I don't know which picture it is. I think it's just going to be some random picture, but that's going to be where you put in your picture that all these other things are based upon. And then step 5 is going to be test, share, and facilitate. And so it's really helpful to have someone who is unfamiliar with your escape room and the clues, and have them go through the breakout room, have them go through the virtual form like I just tried to do, because inevitably, especially when you're training people on it, you're going to find something about it that didn't quite work. And so you want to make sure that you have somebody who's testing it. You also want to take notes on what difficulties your people who are doing the experience in person or digitally find. And then you want to make sure that your sharing is properly turned on, because if it is not, then you will not be able to get the resources to your students. As you start to facilitate your first escape rooms, I'd recommend that you talk to your students about escape rooms and how to do them beforehand. Also, you're going to want, if you have multiple classes, to build in time to reset the different puzzles. That is something that takes at least 15 minutes if you're doing a physical escape room. So you want to build in that time. Have rules and consequences, just like you have expectations in your classroom. Be really explicit on what your rules are for the escape room. Are you going to allow people to be competitive? Are you going to encourage people to be competitive, or are you going to really focus on collaboration and people being kind to one another? Just kind of lay it out there at the beginning. Are you going to offer hints? What I do is I always have envelopes in the different station areas where kids can find hints that will help them but not give them the answer. As I mentioned, testing the games, color coding. I do this for all of my stations. I make a specific station a specific color, and then everything that I do for that station is the same color. So it helps me when I'm setting things up to make sure that things are all in the right place. Highly recommend that your first clue is super easy, because if you start with something that's really hard, your students will get a defeated attitude before they even get started with the escape room, and they won't want to continue on. Different lock types are recommended. So we have a bunch of different lock types that we use. We 3D print locks. So if you have a 3D printer, you can find lots of 3D printed locks and boxes online. We have the Breakout EDU locks, but you can also get master locks or any of those kind of locks that you buy at a hardware store. And then we do locks where people just show you the answer and you give them the next clue. We do locks where they're digital and they show you that they've submitted something. Or if you look at this form right here, you're allowed to put in a message on that second section that says something like, "Congratulations, you did it." Some of ours, and I can show you them in just a second, tell the students where to go next to find their next clue. So you can customize these forms to tell them what they need to know for the next thing once they've solved the next clue. And if you're interested in more escape rooms, there is Breakout EDU. Some of them are free, but a lot of them are paid. So you can look through that platform. They have some. If you're using Canvas, you can go to Canvas Commons and type in escape rooms, and they have tons of digital escape rooms in Canvas Commons. And then I put on here more escape rooms, and at that bottom of that planning document, here are all sorts of free escape rooms that I found during the times when I was doing the research I wanted to do for my escape rooms. So you can click on those too. And that leaves us with some time. So I'm going to try to fix that form really quickly so that you all have a chance to see it working. Jessica shared in the chat the slides as well as the escape room guide. And then again, if you are interested in learning more and actually having us help you build your escape room, feel free to sign up for our 2-day escape room class. But let's take a look really quickly on why this one's not working, because that is going to be something. And I saw Jessica still here, so I'm going to unmute or ask Jessica for a second. Jessica, did you see something that I'm missing right now? I know I always forget something in the middle of a training.
For this form? No, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know why it's not taking, it's a required, and we have our letter lock. I'm just going to delete these other ones for a second to see if that's influencing it. I don't think it is, but we have a 5-letter lock. We'll delete this one. And then let's try my preview. So the answer ruler. Ah, there we go. Okay. So ruler, you'll see it says, please try again, because that's what I put as my error text. And the answer was not ruler. The answer was clues. So it has to be typed exactly, which is why you tell your students no spaces or commas or whatever you need them to know. And then when they hit next, it goes to that second section. And so because I just want to show you everything, so you had that description where you have the scramble. I showed you you can add in for your next question, you could add in an image, and then it could be about the image. You can add in those letter locks or anything else. It could be a number lock, in which case you would do this, and the numbers maybe would be, and then you would just change text to number, and then number is equal to, and then you would say what the number actually was. So we'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your custom error text, please try again. And now you have your second one. And you can do this for really anything. You could do text, you can do numbers, you can do dates, you could do colors, you could do directions. And then the only other thing you need to know to create this is if you need, you're going to need a second section. That's going to be where they go to when they've answered the clue. So you hit this add section, and then this section would be where you say your message. So congratulations screen, and then you have in go to the blank section of the room to see your next clue, or you can add in a picture of a digital badge like we have here. And that's basically how you create it. So if I got rid of this one right here, just to show you, we'll have this one, and then when I get rid of this, when I do this, my number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll preview it. When I answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I hit next, it takes me to my second section, which is going to give me my next clue. So any questions on that? We have 5 minutes. I know we've covered a ton today. Hopefully that made some sense, but let me know if it didn't. And I will stop recording.